Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here with my next Avatar merchandise review video. This one I'm going to be reviewing, taking a look at the Avatar The Last Airbender BST AXN, specifically the Cosmic Energy version, which I believe is a Walmart exclusive, though from what I can see online, other places do seem to have it for like pre-order, so it might just be like a timed exclusive or like a limited release where not everywhere will get it. So check around, but I think Walmart seems to be the main place to get it. So this is my first time having a BST AXN action figure for Avatar. I've messed around with the McFarlane stuff, the Diamond Select stuff, so this will be interesting to finally get a look at the third Avatar toy line and fully compare the three. So let's quickly take a look at kind of everything that you get here. Not too much to say about the packaging, as you can see here. Standard sort of a windowed kind of box, though pretty nice because of how the inner tray, which we'll take a look at in a second, works. Back is quite nice. It shows you all the accessories, so you can see here multiple sets of hands, two little air spirals, and multiple heads. Very nice. Definitely the most of any of the action figures. It obviously tells you that the manufacturer here is the Loyal Subjects. Nice shot of the figure doing the cosmic energy pose. 31 points of articulation and a brief description of Aang, which is accurate but weirdly worded with stuff like Art of the Avatar and the Fire Lord of the Fire Nation, just feeling a little bit redundant, but you know, overall being relatively okay. Again, it's hard to get the nuance of the character in like a single paragraph of text. Otherwise, like, not too much to say. You know, you can see there's obviously the scene where the figure is trying to represent, which is the cosmic energy representation of Aang, which when the Avatar goes up to it and fully accepts it, they gain access to cosmic energy. So that's the version of the figure that we're going for here. So that's pretty nice. Inside, everything comes in this pretty cool inner tray that does have a nice sort of lid on it. So it means you can actually store all the parts quite nicely, kind of as they were presented in the box. So no twist ties or anything like that. Because of the way that this lid works, there's no need for any of that. So packaging pretty nice overall. We'll take a look more at the accessories a little bit later on, but that's just what you do get. So it means you can straight away take the figure out, no problem. And then this kind of cardboard cutout on the back is obviously the sort of insert kind of thing, background for the packaging, but it makes for a nice backdrop for this video. Cosmic Aang on the cosmic background. So let's take a closer look at the figure and then we'll get into the accessories. So you can see here, the main thing that stands out is the paint job, definitely. If you followed this figure since it was announced, released, you'll notice that it sort of changed a few times from the initial shots we got of it to sort of the secondary shots and then to the final release. This ends up looking a little bit more like the initial shots than most of the time that this figure was on sort of pre-order, in that when they initially announced it, the figure looked more dark and mostly black with maybe a little bit of sort of shine getting the purple across. But it was kind of weird, just how dark it was. I get that, based off the cover image for the packaging, that that is actually more of the way the figure actually looks, and it does rely on the sort of silhouette to get the effect across. But then they put up pictures of what looked like the actual figure, done in a pretty standard, just purple paint job. I'll show you a picture of that actually. So I thought this was actually a pretty cool way to do it, in that I didn't think they'd be able to do such a nice paint job as the actual figure got. So I'm kind of okay, Purple Aang. It's not really Cosmic Aang, it's Purple Aang. I'll go for that. And I would have been happy with that kind of wild repaint. But what we got is sort of a blend of the two, where you can see here, it still has that sort of darker aspect like the actual Cosmic Aang is. It's only on the almost edges of the image of Aang where it does become more purple. So I think they did a great job at actually capturing all aspects of this in plastic, with the gradient from, you can see, like, say on this bit of his outfit, it being the most sort of purple. It's not super bright purple, it's still dark purple, but shiny dark purple. And then it gets darker, 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 into effectively sort of like black at parts, to get that sort of almost shading effect across. And it means that, like say, the arrow tattoos, which are done in like white, do really stand out on this figure. So it does look like a sort of exclusive, and I think it has that really deluxe repaint feel to it. The only criticism from an accuracy point of view is obviously that this is the mold is Book 3 Aang from the end of the series, which is not really what the representation of Cosmic Aang actually like looks like in the show. But I get it. It would have been inaccurate to do the Book 1 Aang as well, because the representation of Aang is sort of like kind of shirtless Aang, which obviously is not the figure that they've done. But the allure here of this figure is obviously the paint job, and I think they've done it really, really nice. It feels like an proper exclusive that you would want to get. So very happy with that. The only criticism I would perhaps have of the paint job is just that the arrow, while obviously it fits with the look, is painted on rather lightly, in that it felt like it needed another coat of paint, because it's so dark underneath. It does feel like there are aspects where the dark undercoat of like the purple and black really does come through the white, and that they needed, like especially there on the back, you can see sort of flecks of the dark kind of coming through. They just need another paint to get that bit of paint to get that across. But, you know, overall, for a deluxe paint job, pretty good. Before we get into just discussing the articulation, some minor things that seem to be specific to my figure. There was an assembly error on my figure, and that is that this figure has two left arms. So the way Aang's tattoos work, obviously on his arms, is that they start from underneath his armpit and then rotate around his hand, his arm, down to obviously the front of his hand. You can see it works fine on the left hand, but on the right hand you can see there's no arrow tattoo underneath the armpit. Instead, it seemingly starts on the back of his arm here. And that is because you can sort of see the sort of angle there. It goes diagonally down this way on this hand, and it's the same here. So they basically just, in terms of the upper arm, elbow, and kind of forearm piece, these two pieces are identical. It did also come with another, like the same hand over here. So everything was left basically. Now, thankfully there were right hands as the extra accessory, so that was able to be solved. But you can see the problem on my version of the figure is that the tattoos don't actually line up. You can see the hand is in the right position there, but the actual where it should continue on from his hand is actually on the back. So I've seen other people with this figure and theirs is correct. So it's not like a thing where like every single version of this figure, the hand is wrong. It's just a case of like, if you do go to say Walmart to get this, just try and take a look in the packaging and see that the arms are correct. The way I noticed this even in the packaging before I opened it was that I could tell that this hand was basically this hand as well. So that was that. Now, as for just this figure, I think it's a 5-inch figure if I remember correctly. It is well articulated, like compared to say the other similar figure from this size, which would be the McFarlane smaller scale, which you can see they're the same size. This has way more articulation than it. Like this one doesn't even have ankles, as you can see there. It doesn't have anything really with the wrists or anything like that. It's a very basic action figure, even though the sculpt is nice for the McFarlane. Here, it's basically sort of Diamond Select and McFarlane larger scale articulation, but on a smaller figure. So the head is on a ball joint, so that moves, you know, exactly the way you want. Pretty nice. Again, given that the head can be exchanged out, you would expect that. The unhindered arm, you know, has, again, decent articulation. You can rotate it all the way around. You have the sort of upper bicep swivel here, which is quite good. Double jointed elbow, which again does exactly what you want, no problem there. Because the hands are exchangeable, the hands obviously rotate 180, and they have a sort of back and forth joint in them as well. So basically all the articulation you want. You're not missing anything on these figures here in terms of the arms. The only problem with the arms is, of course, because of the outfit that they've chosen, Book 3 ANG. This arm here, the left arm, is hindered just because this doesn't move. His outfit here over his shoulder doesn't really move. So you can't really move the hand up more than that. So obviously this one can go basically straight out. This one is sort of limited to just being always pointing down because it's very, very difficult to move this. Now, to be fair, the Diamond Select, which is a lot bigger figure, it's like a 6-inch figure, also has the same problem of this bit is sort of locked in place. Now this one has a little bit more to it because this part is actually movable. So you can sort of move it, but it is tighter. You can see the way that they've done it here. They cut it so that the arm does get a bit more motion. Whereas on the Diamond Select, for some reason, they still molded the sleeve to come down quite far. So this gets barely any motion at all. But this one at least has some. But I do wish that there was a way to do a Book 3 ANG where you could get proper motion out of this. And I'm not really sure what way to do it. My suggestion was, again, we can see it better on this because it's colored, is that you probably need to mold the orange bit in as basically the top of the shoulder on this arm and have it be a separate piece than the orange piece. And as you move the shoulder, the yellow piece is able to sort of rotate under the orange piece. Whereas in these cases, they just have it be one piece. And at least it's movable on the Diamond Select. Here, it's locked in quite hard, even though it is a separate piece. If you try and pull this aside, you'll see that like Aang's sort of chest is just not sculpted underneath this piece. So that's why they did it that way. You do have like a double kind of like waist joint. This sort of is on like a bit of a rocker, so like you can do upper chest movement and a little bit of back and forth. Not quite like an ab crunch, but sort of. It also does have the actual waist joint as well, so that's quite nice. And then we get into the other restricted part of this. Because of like the way Aang's outfit goes, it's like starts here, this one's restricted, but then you get down to the opposite side hip, and it's also heavily restricted. I don't get why none of the figure manufacturers so far have made a decision with these pieces to just alter them slightly so that they work better for an action figure. In that you basically can't really move Aang's right leg all that much, especially out to the side, because of the way that this is done. I think they should just put a cut down the side, even though it's not accurate to the way it works. Because the plastic isn't flexible enough, it just doesn't allow you the motion that you need. And again, because the parts are all sort of molded together, like at least this bit is separate here. But because this is attached to this, it does really restrict this leg, unless you really want to go for it and like I did there, rip the leg off at the ball joint. Now, thankfully, it is a ball joint, but you know, it's not great that you kind of have to force it that much to even get a reasonable amount of posability out of it. So the other leg highlights more of the articulation in that it goes out relatively far. It can come out pretty far. You have the upper thigh swivel. The knees are kind of disappointing because the structure of the knees, you can sort of see it here. They are double jointed, you can see there. There's the lower leg joint, and then you can see there's the upper leg joint. But because it's sort of like in the thigh bit here, you don't actually really get much use out of the upper part of the double jointed knee. You get like that much movement out of the top joint. You can sort of force it a bit more, but again, it feels like I'm going to break the figure because you can see the way the joint is done. It's a relatively thin piece that is the kind of actual like core of the knee, and I feel like if I forced that, I would rip the plastic apart. So it feels a tad delicate there if you want to actually get the double jointed knees. Ankles feel actually quite good. You know, they go forward and back, and they have a kind of rocker joint, so you can do the poses where like Aang is kind of has his feet flat on the ground, even on a really wide pose, which is I think, yeah, quite good. They're a little loose. Like they hold the figure up, but definitely in certain positions it does feel like the ankles and the knee is just maybe a little tiny little bit loose. But the figure does stand. It's just not as, I suppose, structurally sound as some of the other figures. Like say the McFarlane are super tight with their joints. Not so much that like they're difficult to use, whereas like Diamond Select's joints were almost like so tight that you felt like you were breaking it. In this case, McFarlane just had like nicely solid joints. So overall, actually, like pretty impressed overall. Obviously, like a few disappointing bits, like okay, QC not great, that the arm part is wrong, but in general, you know, quite good. So that is something that's definitely interesting. Other than that, like I said, the main thing that just comes across is that it's a really nice look. Really nice look for this figure. Now let's take a look at the accessories. Hopefully that doesn't fall over. So we'll quickly take a look at the alternate heads. Let me just pour all this stuff out. Okay, so other alternate head. First one up is Smile. Now this face looks hilarious on this like iteration of Aang. Cosmic Aang doing this closed mouth big grin is just hilarious. I actually love it because it looks great on the figure. I'll put this one on in a second. So the sculpt here is like your sort of classic angry avatar state pose, which again is nice if you want a little bit more of a dynamic pose. I think the one that's on the figure definitely fits the best for this iteration, where it's just more of a stoic look, because I think that's what the cosmic energy scene represents. It's not the anger of the uncontrolled avatar state. It's not Aang smiling like he usually does. It is just that more neutral expression. But I do like that they just give you full-on, you know, alternate heads. They're not like face, you pull off half of the face and you put it on. No, they're just full-on extra heads. So that's pretty good. You do get the staff, and it is the correct staff. It's the Book 3 staff here, of course. Now, obviously, it's just done in this paint style because this is what you get with the Book 3, and they just did everything in this style. I'm actually surprised they even went to the effort to paint it, but I suppose it's just to get across the full effect, even though technically, like, Aang's staff doesn't become a cosmic staff in this form. So that's that. Before we get into the hands, which aren't particularly interesting, you do get a sticker, which I think is quite nice, Best Action, so that's cool. You do get your 2 air spiral effect parts. Now, I don't have the standard version of this figure to know if these are any different than the normal ones, but you can maybe slightly tell there's a slight green tinge to them. And I'm sort of wondering, is that what they're going for here, for like the almost lighting effects of this figure, where it's like purple and the white comes through? So let's make the air effect parts kind of have a little bit of a green glow to them. I don't think they're glow in the dark. It doesn't say anywhere that they're glow in the dark. I did a little bit of like kind of like shining a light on them for ages and seeing if they have that effect. I don't really think they are glow in the dark. They might have a slight aspect to them, but like I don't think the paint on the figure, for instance, is glow in the dark or anything like that, but I might be wrong about that. Again, I don't have a black light to fully make use of a glow in the dark effect. But yeah, these 2 little air spirals, the way they attach on is basically just that some of the hands that are more like this, you just basically like insert them into there to act like they're coming out of his hands. So, you know, pretty nice. I think when you're displaying this figure, you're less going to be displaying him bending, because this iteration of Aang is more just the figure doing the pose. And you almost wish that it came with the ball of kind of light that Aang walks into more than anything. But anyway, the hands on the figure here are the sort of splayed open hands, which are fine. You do get the fist hands, which is fine. So that's cool. And yeah, you get both sides of that. You get the sort of fingers out hand, which I think are the ones for this part. So yeah, we just do like that. That's basically how these effect parts work. You just put these hands in like so, and can show Aang using the airbending. So that's fine. You have the grabbing hands here, which is obviously for the staff, if you want to use that. So that's fine. And again, I think you get both sides of that as well, also in the packet. Yeah. So that's basically all that there is to talk about here with the Cosmic Energy Aang. Does it make me want to get more of these best action figures? Perhaps. They do seem to be doing a more substantial wave 2 than a lot of the other figure companies, and if they do continue to go into the characters that I think people have been asking for the last couple of years, absolutely, in that they seem to be the first of the new companies doing figures to be doing, like, say, a Jet. But I do want to see just these companies do more of the other characters, because look at the amount of like different Aangs that I have, and this isn't even all of them. Just highlighting that like every company is starting off with Aangs, and they're all doing a different blend of like, some of them will start with the book 3 Aang, which I much prefer, but all of them seem to ultimately be going for the book 1 Aang as well. I like the uniqueness of just that they did a Cosmic Energy Aang, because everyone does the Spirit Aang. That's the easy one to do, clear plastic. Not many people think to go for the Cosmic Energy one with the crazy purple design. And that's what I really like about this. So you can see the different size class is here. These two are McFarlane. So McFarlane, 6-inch, I think. You have sort of the 5-inch scale McFarlane here. Best Action is 5-inch. Diamond Select, I think, is sort of like 5.5, 6-inch. It depends on the scale of the figure. Aang is obviously a kid, so he's a bit smaller than that. I might be wrong here, but I think it's more like, this is 7-inch, I think. This is 6-inch, and then these two are 5-inch. I think that's basically the way it works. I still would say the overall most solid figure is the McFarlane, because even though they've only done 2 figures at this size class, it's the, I think, best done version of the figures, because what they did here with, say, like at the top of Aang's book 1 outfit was, I thought, a very clever way to get around the, a lot of Avatar characters' outfits don't make for great action figures. And I thought they actually made, in kind of having it in a sort of blowing in the breeze, outstretched kind of version, did it quite nice. Articulation, maybe lacking in accessories. Like, that's the big thing with these best action figures, is that for their price point of, like, I think this is only like $20. And that's, I think, more expensive than the standard editions, because it's like an exclusive fancy repaint. You get so many accessories. Whereas, like, a lot of the other figures, the best you can maybe hope for is that they come with, like, an extra set of hands and maybe, like, a second accessory. So McFarlane is lacking in accessories. I don't really like the construction, necessarily, of how the Diamond Selects feel as action figures. So these feel sort of like the best of both worlds, but the QC might be a bit of a problem with them. As I said, like, obviously pieces kind of slightly wrong. I've heard some people say that the joints can be so loose that the figures can't really stand up. Mine is solid, but maybe if I use the joints a bit more, they might actually become exceptionally loose. But I like what you get here. I do really like that. And so we'll just end by swapping heads here. So we'll put the grinning Aang on just to show this off. So you can see there is grinning Aang, and it looks hilarious to see him in sort of like his god cosmic mode with this like funny grin on his face, like he's the god of mischief now. I think, you know, there's going to be some fun stuff just with like this representation of Aang here. So definitely cool. Very happy to add it to my collection. I do wish these were a little bit more accessible for me, in that like no places that I can easily like buy from really have them available. This There's a few places online I can get them, but I don't know if I want to commit to getting like all of them necessarily. But if they are the first company to do certain figures, I'll absolutely grab the Best Action version of them. So if Best Action are doing the first Mei, Ty Lee, Suki, I'll be definitely in on them. I think ultimately all three lines are fine, but I don't think we've got the ultimate Avatar action figure yet. I think we would have to probably wait for an SH Figuarts or a Figma to do an Avatar proper figure, and not like a Nendoroid, to see what they're like. That will probably be like the ultimate Avatar figure. But for now, my recommendation probably is Best Action or McFarlane 7-inch. But they only have 2 figures and still haven't announced anymore. So that's that. So that's been the video. In the comments, let me know what your thoughts are, but that's been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.